Okay, Rose says, I'm consumed by envy. I can hardly stand to read or watch or listen to anyone more successful than myself. In what directions am I aiming wrong? Okay, well, look, Rose, it's pretty damn useful to figure out that you're consumed by envy. That's a good start. You know, that's a real self-realization and an important one. Okay, so the first thing we might ask is, well, it's likely reasonable for you to observe that that's not optimal for you, right? Because envy, that's that resentment that I was talking about earlier, or even worse, that jealousy. It's like it's not a pleasant phenomenological state. It's not a pleasant state of experience. Okay, so look, let's look at it this way. Well, what are you envious of? You know, you say, I can hardly stand to read or watch or listen to anyone more successful than myself. Well, that's pretty vague, Rose. And you want to tighten up your envy a bit. It's like, you'll find that there are certain people that you're particularly envious of, and others whose accomplishments really don't disturb you, let's say. So the first thing you want to do is figure out which people it is that you're particularly envious of. And then you want to figure out, well, what is it that you think they have? Now, you know, they probably have a lot more problems than you think. And so part of the pathology of envy is that you look at someone who's successful and you assume that that success defines them across all the important dimensions of their life. And that's rarely the case. And so, you know, there's a naive optimism in envy, and that's reflected in the fact that you think that the person you're jealous of has everything that a person would need, and that's rarely the case. In your envy lurks the beginnings of a structure of ambition. You wouldn't be envious of something if you didn't believe that that was a value that you should possess. Okay, so the first thing is, make a list of all the people you're envious of. And then figure out what it is about them that you envy. Okay, now those are your goals all of a sudden, right? So let's assume, we'll be optimistic about this. You're envious. Okay, well that means there's some things you value. You don't have them, but it's the beginnings of a philosophical stance. So you lay out what it is you're envious about. And you think, well, these people have this and this and this and this, and I don't, and that's unfair. And it might be unfair. It's probably not an unfairness that's specifically aimed at you. It's probably more a general reflection of the unfairness and inequality that's part of life, and that's worth knowing. But in any case, you lay out your envy, and you delve deep into it, and you find out, well, here's what I want. Because you're envious because you see other people that have what you want. Okay, good. Now all of a sudden you know what you want. Well, that's useful, terrifying, because you might see that it's so distant from you, but you can at least lay out and then maybe even admit to yourself what you want. Because the other thing is that you'd be unlikely to be so envious if you weren't hiding from yourself what it is that you truly want. You might be terrified to admit it because, well, once you admit it, then you know what you want and you know when you're failing, you know, and by hiding what you want from yourself, well, then you can hide to some degree the fact that you're not getting it and that you're failing. And it's no wonder that people do that. So make a list of what you're envious of. Extract from that the virtues that you would like to pursue. Understand clearly that unless you pursue those virtues, you're not going to get what you want, and the envy will consume you more, and that's like a good pathway to hell. That's not a good thing. And so make a plan. Here's some things that other people have that I want. How can I start to move towards having some of that myself? And that's the right way to deal with it. So, because what's the alternative? You're going to tear these people down or manifest hatred for for them and maybe take your revenge when you can on the people around you because you're so angry and you're going to tear yourself into pieces. Like you said, consumed by envy, right? And that's a predator metaphor. Envy is something that's eating you up. God, that's not good, But it's really good that you've at least admitted it. That's part of that confrontation with the shadow. So you can see your dark side there. And you could look at your fantasies, because if you're consumed by envy, no doubt you have some pretty damn brutal fantasies. I wish this is what would happen to that person. God, they think they're so smart. It's like, I hope they fall and I get a chance to kick them while they're down. Maybe you can join a Twitter mob and take them out if they make a mistake, But that can also get you in touch with the dark side of you that maybe has the ability to put forward some commitment to moving forward in the future that can make you tough and strong. And so you might also start with the consideration that you could move in the direction that you desire, right? If you were willing to make the proper sacrifices and willing to do the work. And maybe if you could find out what would truly motivate you, which might be the desire to cease being consumed by envy, that would be a good start. And then to pursue these goals that are implicit in your jealousy, well, then you have a direction for your life. So, in what directions are you aiming wrong? Well, you're assuming that you're being unfairly treated. And that there's something personal about that. Now, you probably are being unfairly treated in some sense, because that's just the human condition, I would say. Like, there's a real arbitrary element of life. You're subject to the depredations of nature and the tyranny of culture and your own appalling shortcomings. And that's life. It's not personal exactly, and that's worth knowing. It's part of the standard human condition. And you should aim at rectifying your envy, and some of that's going to be dropping that bitter resentment, and the other is going to be pursuing what you need to pursue to allow you to view your life as at least acceptable, right? So there's hope in the envy once you admit it, because it gives you a moral direction.